I don't know what happened. Welcome back to the Tuesday Talk, First Best Habit with Nathan and Brooke. Something happened, some Instagram glitch. I don't know what it was, but we were just talking about gratitude, and apparently Brooke's Be Outside must have um, for the network, for the connection. That bee, that was the
I
last thing I
know,
heard.
I
There's a
know.
bee outside, and then it said video has ended. um, which I don't know if the bee has that power, but that was the last thing I heard, and I was very grateful to hear that.
Yeah, I'm grateful for pollinators, which then spurs me on to do whatever I can to make sure we keep them
Yeah,
here with us, our allies, the pollinators.
yes, absolutely. I very much agree with that. Just a quick little recap for the last like 6 minutes because I don't know what happened with the connection. Instagram didn't let me save the video. It said it wasn't even a minute long. Um, Brooke had a little rocky night of sleep, in and out, a little thin. I had a delicious 3 nights of sleep in a row. And then we were just sharing some gratitude with you to warm up this little conversation before we talk about mornings and things. Brilliant. Was that everything that you wanted to share as far as gratitude goes this morning? Brilliant.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Brilliant. I love the tapping feeling of the heart and just letting it come to you because I try to practice gratitude a lot, but I also try to let it be like effortless. And some days it feels super effortful of like trying to come up with something, unique or exciting or something that I wasn't grateful for before. Um, so yeah, I'm grateful for, truly having those 3 nights of sleep and just the way that I feel. Um, I'm grateful that I showed up for an in-person workout yesterday, which I haven't done in quite some time, and the way that it's made my body feel. And I know that that definitely influenced the night of sleep I got last night. I'm grateful for how much I've been hydrating myself. I have this 32-ounce bottle of water that I know I filled up at least 4 or 5 times yesterday, and so I feel really wet and delicious. Yeah. Um, yeah, and then for others in my life, having these Tuesdays with you, Brooke, is like such a treat, such a treasure to have somebody else to show up for that I know is a champion of mine and supporting me. It means a lot, and to have just this creative outlet, it's been really nice. So thank you for just cultivating that. You were the seed behind all of that. Um, yeah, and I'm grateful for my morning group call, people that just keep showing up every day at 9:30 a.m. to share a little bit of gratitude, get a little quiet, and set an intention for the day. Yeah, and then I'll say grateful for my pal JR. We're going to see a movie together later today, and it's definitely a movie that I would not have opted to see just on my own, and I love that. I like it when I'm seeing all the versions of art that exist in the world. And then I'm grateful for pal Erin Williams for watching. She must have watched the entire video last week, start to finish, with all the little nuggets that she shared. I'm grateful that she shared that I can put essential oils with some coconut oil and then I can apply that directly to my skin. Sounds really nice. I'm currently diffusing the Fraser Fir oil in my apartment, so it smells really yummy in here. Brilliant. That's all I have for like, little warm-uppy talks. Yeah, I pitched the idea that we would talk about mornings today, mostly just because I wanted to see you, and I was kind of thinking on the fly at work of like what's something we could potentially talk about that kind of connects to our major theme. So thanks for engaging in that. Yeah, anything you have to say to start us off?
Well, I want to start before we talk about
Yeah,
mornings.
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to to the wonderful observation you made about this being a creative outlet. And I'm so grateful for that too, because what makes this different for me is that not only do I get to connect with you and hear your thoughts and sort of expand our own, I'm a big believer in collective intelligence and crowdsourcing. So we get to expand on that. But when these social media presences
Mhm.
become creative outlets instead of marketing must-dos, right?
Yeah,
It's a whole different world. And then it's like, oh wow, this is something I look forward to rather than like, oh, do I have to make a reel?
yeah.
You know?
I know both ends of that spectrum very well. Yeah, and it definitely engages like my uh-oh, like my scary moments like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? I don't know what's gonna happen. And then also kind of teaching myself to reel myself in of like, okay, you're safe. like, yeah, maybe the internet's a little glitchy. Maybe you don't know the next line you're gonna say, but you're not being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. You're still like in a warm house with like somebody who cares about you, and you're in a good spot. So calm down, and you don't have to let those fear muscles engage too much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great. We are practicing overcoming the fear muscles. And when classes start, for me, when I'm able to go to them more frequently, acting classes and performance
Mhm.
classes, it'll be interesting to see how this experience weaves into that.
Yeah, yeah. Also, just manifesting, practicing for new normals of more on camera time, more hosting experience, more all those things. So, thanks for that. Sorry to go on that big tangent of just how grateful I am for this space. Thank you, listeners, for indulging in that moment. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all of you, and we're getting a lot of new faces here that I haven't seen before. So grateful
Oh,
for that.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
We're going to talk about mornings and anything you put. I'm not skilled enough to address it right now, but I'll go back and see. So we've talked a lot about bedtime, which I call the first best habit, because it is the gateway to sleep, you're doing it anyway, make it count. And it's also just like an opportunity for happiness practices and self-care. And then when you get sleep, you can do all the good stuff that you want to do during your day, present and healthy, mindful. So we were going to talk about mornings, like because morning routine is a big thing. That is like, there's a lot of coaches that sort of pin that to the top of their list. And I would say it's second to bedtime. That's just me. But they're definitely both influenced one by the other. So I don't know. What should we do, Nathan? Should we
Yeah,
start?
totally. I think it's also a really individual thing, so we can share individual stories about mornings. And also, I just want to call myself out a little bit. If somebody asks me what my morning routine is, I will give them a long list of like best life Nathan Nolan Edwards morning routine that like makes me look really fancy and amazing. And let me tell you, everybody, that is not what happens 7 days a week. That'll happen once in a while when all the stars align. Occasionally, if I'm in a good rhythm or flow, of like maybe having good structure for the rest of my day, of knowing, okay, I have a very finite amount of time to get these things done, so I better do them in a ritualistic routine. But as far as like a practice for every day of my life for the last however many years, it's not super solidified yet in this moment. And I just want to have space for that, normalize that a little bit, and know it's still a practice, and you can see what works for you, and see you can do some habit tracking of seeing how often you can do the same thing over and over again. I do think it's great to have a morning routine. I think the days that I have it and that I just don't have to use too much of this, of like thinking about what I'm doing, um, that it is much better and effective for me. But it doesn't take much to have one little curveball throw you off track, and then if when you're off track one day, it's easy to not do it again and again. So just wanted to kind of start with that. Yeah, but I think the first thing that I think about is like, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? Like, what's the first thing that happens? And how do you wake up? Those are the two questions that I just am asking myself, the universe. If anybody's watching live, feel free to chime in. Like, how do you feel when you wake up? How do you want to feel when you wake up? And yeah, and what's the first thing that you do? Um, I'm happy to share. For me, this worked for a while, and I don't think it's the best habit for me anymore. I have my alarm on my phone to go off. It's usually 8:15 every day. And the first alarm is like these nice little chimes, pretty soothing. And that kind of gets me up and awake. And then at 8:16, I have these trumpets blaring from the recording Nancy Lamott singing "I Got the Sun in the Morning and the Moon at Night." Um, and that used to really like pump me up and get me ready to go and like kind of lead me out of bed. And when I was getting up much earlier, I kind of needed that jolt out of bed. But now, been doing that for it'll be, oh my goodness, 4 years in January that's been my alarm. So it may be time for a refresh, reframe. Um, in that. best magical life, I would love to just have the birds wake me up with like Snow White style and just do a nice little stretch and be like, oh, I couldn't possibly sleep anymore. That was a delicious day, night to sleep. But um, yeah, I don't know if that's in the cards for the foreseeable future for me. That was a
You,
lot. So
yeah, you just got back from time away where you had roosters wake you up, right? Was
I
it
did, I
different?
did, yeah, over Thanksgiving weekend, and that was amazing. And it was also just to connect the bedtime with the morning time. I mean, it also just got so dark so much earlier than I'm used to getting it being dark with no artificial light, um, tying into all of our topics. But yeah, there was no artificial light. We just had a fire. There were some lights in the house and things, but when it was nighttime, it was dark and you were able to really unwind. So I was going to sleep way earlier than I ever go to sleep in New York and had no judgment or guilt. It also wasn't I wasn't really looking at my phone or didn't know what time it was. So it was just kind of my intuition of like being like, okay, you're tired now. Now it's time to go to bed. Um, and so I think that helped a lot. But yes, I was in a place where the roosters were my wake up call, and that was really nice.
Yeah, I bet. Wow. Um, so that's interesting. The whole alarm thing, I'm really lucky and privileged that I don't have to be anywhere right away. But oddly enough, the more I don't have to be anywhere right away, I can ease into my morning routine.
Hmm.
I can wake up naturally, and I think that's a result of practicing a consistent. My hair is crazy, right? Uh,
I don't know.
Someday I will learn to be handy with my hair,
Yeah.
maybe when I'm 80. So yeah, so for me, morning, I used to judge myself for hating that alarm, and get ready
Hmm.
and a lot of that was like I was younger and I needed more sleep and my sleep pattern was different,
Yeah.
and that's just, we should just accept that there's seasons to our lives, there's seasons to the year, it's all going to shift. Um, but I like to feel, I think I resent like going from this sleep dream state, which is just fantastic. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just, like such a creative place of knowledge and wisdom and connection to our unconscious and the collective unconscious, if you believe in that, that I just resented, like, get up, let
Yeah.
go, you know? So now I kind of I keep a pad next to the bed. And so if there's any kind of strange dream moments or messages that I'm getting, I can write them down. Um, I put my feet on the floor and be sure to say a thank you instead of like, oh crap, you know,
Hmm.
figure
Yeah.
this to, like that's a terror. I just would, I'm going to be judgmental here. That's a terrible way to start the day.
Yeah.
Um, and
I,
even if it's, you don't have to say like an affirmation. You can just like, I'm feeling my feet on the floor.
uh-huh.
That's good. The floor is connected to the apartment below me, and right down to the granite of New York City or wherever you are.
Yeah.
So I like to stay in kind of a mentally liminal space. If I knew more, I could tell you what wave state it is. It might be theta. Um, and then we've talked about reversing nighttime routines in the
Hmm.
morning. So the first thing I do, and I won't go into that, is I drink water. I drink water because you're dehydrated at night, and there's some indication that the more water you drink before noon, like you were saying before, like you hydrated and you're like, oh, ready to go, like filled
Yeah.
with energy. So, before you have the coffee, which is dehydrating, um, I have water. So that's the first phase of my morning routine. Like, ditch the resentment that I have to be productive,
Yeah.
that I have to nail the day, like, you don't have to nail the day. It's going to avail itself to you, and it's how you engage with it in the most positive way you can.
Yeah. I love all of that. Your morning just does sound like a textbook of a perfect morning of, just letting yourself get up and putting your feet on the floor. Um, I just literally just before this call, I was listening to the Spark File with Susan Blackwell and Laura Camion, and they were talking about the positives of social media, and one of them was this account where it highlighted language that we don't normally use, and there was a word for when you wake up in bed and you're spending that time in bed without getting out of bed. There's a word for that, and I wish I wrote it down for this. It's called like hickety tickety. Like it sounds like a just I guess all words are made up, but it does sound like a word that I don't know. I guess it's kind of onomatopoeia, kind of sounds like what it is. But yeah, it's like that moment of when you wake up and you're still in bed and you're like, no, I'm not gonna start my day yet. That moment of time. I will go back, listen to that word, and I'll put it in the comments of this episode. Um, anyway, I was just thinking of that. But yeah, I like it how it's, just starting your day a little bit intentionally and knowing that you don't have to put the gas on, on overdrive right away, which is often, yeah, not what I do. And so when you wake up, you don't use an alarm at all, you said?
No, not unless I have to, go somewhere like ridiculously early,
Hmm.
and even then my head will wake me up. And I
Yeah,
have an alarm that's set to like a classical music radio station. I mean, I think if I really needed an alarm, I would probably choose one of these soft glowing lights
yeah,
that turn on, rather than, and save the really pump up music for that early morning walk, or, that
yeah.
circadian hit you get from the sun to
Hmm.
balance it. Um, that's what I would do. And randomly, I think when we rethink our morning routines, or rituals or choreography, however we want to perceive it, we outside the boundaries of productivity,
Yeah.
it opens up a whole new world. Like I'm part of Jonathan Tilley's Inner Circle, which is a great resource for creatives. And he did a whole thing on productivity, and his morning routine, he watches Netflix in bed in the morning rather than at night. Then at night, it's a different world.
Yeah.
And I thought that is kind of cool. Like if we really enjoy our stories, which we do, maybe we should start the day with a story. You
Hmm.
know, it's just a different way of looking at it. To
Yeah.
scrub away the oughts and the shoulds.
Yeah, there was a season of my life when I was doing that. And it was a little bit shitty because I was taking a film TV class where I like had to watch a lot of content, but I liked doing it in the morning where I just felt like able to absorb more, be more present. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, and I think we can really kind of just take this bite-sized moment of morning routine because we've already said a lot. And on both sides, they're both so different. I love that you don't use an alarm. Um, there's some days where I almost always get up a little bit before the alarm goes off, and I can lean into that and trust that a little bit more. Because yeah, I think that would be nice to um, be awake, up and present before the trumpets go off, and to let the trumpet time be a little bit later in the day. I used to always like first thing in the morning, I would undo my blinds right away, and that was kind of just the choreography ritualistic of like opening up the blackout curtains. And I haven't done that in a long time. So just saying that out loud, that I think that was a helpful moment of the mornings for me. Other thing you said, I mean, when you were saying, I don't want to put a judgment on it that that's bad. I think whatever you were saying was kind of objective. I'm trying to, I can't. Oh, was that when you look at your phone first thing? Um, whatever you were saying that you were saying of putting a judgment on it. I think it was an okay judgment. I think it was like I sign off on that judgment of whatever it was, something about
Oh, starting the day by saying, "Oh crap,"
oh crap,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, 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 yes.
It
Um,
just doesn't get you anywhere. And I'm not going to judge the phone because I am really, read the studies, practiced the practice, kept the phone out of the bedroom or
mhm,
parked far away from the bed.
yeah,
But there was a time this year where I was waking up crazy early, and I couldn't access those theta waves, that mystical part of myself. It was just anxiety producing and it wasn't helping me. And I have the Insight Timer app, and I would listen to long guided visualizations and fall with binaural beats going in the background and fall back asleep. So and Insight Timer tracks it. So for 108 days straight, I broke my own rule, you
Wow.
know?
Ni-
And yeah, so,
Yeah.
and it worked. It was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't get hooked into social media. I just, listened to these tracks and fell back asleep and had crazy, wonderful dreams,
Yeah.
you know?
Um, it really gets me going and makes me really happy whenever you use just this very like sleep language of like theta waves and like I just get off on it so much and I love it so much. And I don't always understand all the words that you're saying as far as theta waves and other things, and I'm going to do a good job of learning a little bit more each week and each day. But I love that. And listeners, if you're watching this and you don't fully understand all the language, you're not alone. I'm right there with you, even though I'm uh, on this with Brooke, hosting this with Brooke. I consider her far more of an expert when it comes to the actual science language of all of that. And I'm right there with you with an open ears, open heart, learning about this. But I love it when you say it. I love it when you get into your like, I don't know, like your sleep transcendent moment, and you're just like throwing out all that sleep language. It really warms me up, lights me up.
Thank you, but I'm no expert either. I need to do a deep dive and know between delta, alpha. I use binaural beats, and Tom Burke has explained how they work scientifically because he's like a great science head as well as a great vocal teacher.
Yeah.
But the reason I use theta is from a creative perspective. I've been practicing Janet Connor's writing down your deep soul writing. She has a book called Writing Down Your Soul, which is I really recommend it. I've used it for character research, inner character research, and it's mind blowing the coincidences that have come up. Mind blowing. But so she talks about theta, which is theta waves, which is a state between waking and sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a creative place that you can get to on your own,
Oh,
where
I
you
love that.
can sit and listen to that voice. And I was watching a master class with Betty Buckley,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's such a gem. It's filled with all sorts of great stuff. But she talks about tapping into the collective unconscious
Oh,
as
great.
a singer and performing artist. So
Mm-hmm.
we're all kind of working in this field of possibilities and existing potentials that getting up and seizing the day may deprive us of.
Yeah. Um, Great. That kind of ties into the next thing I just wanted to say. And take your time with this, but how do you want to feel in the morning? Like, what is the way that you want to feel first thing when you wake up? And it may be several things. You don't have to have like one word or whatever. You can chat it out loud. Um, and I don't necessarily know the answer for myself, but yeah, I just it always comes to mind of like, how do you want to feel when you wake up in the morning?
That's a really good question because do we choose it or do we tap into what's there and work with it?
Yeah, yeah. I think both are. I think it's both. I think both are valid. Of like, there can be, it's not morning now. It's not like first thing in the morning right now. So we can set an idea or an intention of like, what do I want to feel, and then you can pair that with what you're actually feeling and tap into that and lean into that. Yeah, it's both things. But I guess what I'm thinking of is like right now when you're just thinking of like, all right, when I'm just getting that day started, what is the way I want to feel? Um, and I don't know the answer at all. It's all subjective to the individual.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know that for me, after I find my feet and say gratitude or just be present,
Hmm.
drink my water, pee,
Uh-huh.
um, that's key. That
Yeah.
happens every day. I have a chair that I call my prayer chair,
Hmm.
but, and that I found in the garbage from New York City. By the way, if I had one wish from a genie, it would be to get the three best things from the New York City garbage every day. That would be. But anyway, it's an awesome chair and it's got big wide arms and it's maple wood. And I sit in the chair while the coffee's brewing, and I have contemplative reading. I've been using the same book for 8 years, and it's kind of expanded. And I just sit and see what avails itself to me, with my journal. Sometimes there's some meditation or intentional breathing, but mainly it's just like, how do I want to sit in this moment, and how do I want to shape what I have to do during the day
Yeah.
around those feelings. So that's my thing. What's up with you?
Yeah, and I got to cheat a little bit because I asked the question, then listened to you and like kind of absorbed what you were saying. But yeah, I think that in the morning and this is an intention I'm setting for the future, but I'd like to just accept that that's the time where like I'll probably be the least anxious or least stressed of like the whole rest of the day. That time, and then when I get both of my meditations in, probably the moments after the meditations. But even that, I think that the first thing in the morning, just being like, okay, this is where I'm at my best, where I have more, uh, choice to make intentional decisions. Um, yeah, and I want to feel, I guess I want to feel creative in the morning, and not from a productive, like get things done kind of way, but just that's probably where like my imagination and ability to focus on one task is at its highest. So again, like not a pressure to be productive or get things done, but just permission to allow myself to know that this moment is that great, wonderful moment of before the phone rings and you get alerts and you see the emails you have and all the other things that add extra stress, pressure, and anxiety to one's life. To really cherish that morning time and to do my best. And again, this is kind of an intentional thing that'll take time, but do my best to extend that morning magical time just a little bit longer than I have let myself do in the past. Yeah, because I think a lot of us have that like, oh crap, like I gotta go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Um, and then we didn't really touch on this, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think one's relationship to the snooze button is important to be aware of. I have hit the snooze button in times past, but I don't know. Do you know why it exists or any philosophy behind a snooze button, or are there any benefits from it of that like 7.5 minute? Because I don't know. I I know many people use it, and I have definitely touched that button in the past, but there's been very few times where I was like, oh, that 7.5 extra minutes was exactly what I needed.
Right. That's a really good question. And I am going to research the history of the snooze button because my skeptical self thinks it's a marketing,
Uh,
you
yeah,
know, just build this in because people like that sweet time,
yeah,
and this way it can be controlled. But what I hear, so I want to research that. I'm serious. I mean,
yeah,
I'm growing increasingly skeptical about a lot of assumptions
yeah.
as I wrap my prayer shawl around me. But it sounds to me, and I think that this is a great way to look at mourning, and I thank you for this, that your mourning isn't just like a matter of extending that time. It becomes a well. It becomes a wellspring of, almost a sacred well that you can
Hmm.
dip into throughout the day and have a sweet, cooling ladle drink of spring water.
Yeah,
You know, that's what solitude, I mean, I need solitude to regulate myself. And in this world, the only time I can get that is before the rest of the world wakes up.
yeah,
You know, that's it, you know?
yeah. I hear that uh, so deeply. Um, yeah, we've talked about so many things, and uh, I just do feel that the morning is so connected to the bedtime as well. Like just the more that we talk about it, the more I just see the parallels and connections. Um, yeah, and the choices that we make in the morning, I think, do set us up for the rest of the day. And a lot of that is just mindset based, of like how are you going to set up your mindset for the day, and how to connect that with bedtime at the end of the day. It's like um, things we can measure. We can kind of measure like the amount of hours we sleep, and then we can measure like, all right, what are the choreography rituals we're doing at the end of the day, what are the rituals we're doing at the beginning of the day. And then there's a lot of things that we can't control, but um, I think as far as being the human we want to be, and just being aware of what do we do first thing in the morning, what do we do before we go to bed, and I still stand by you of the bedtime is definitely that first best habit because we're not going to have the morning we want if we didn't have the bedtime we wanted.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
very, very true. I would not have had these great mornings these last 3 days if I didn't opt for just hit my marks at the end of the day and getting to bed, despite feeling a little wound up after each shift and feeling like, no, there's more day that I want to have each of those days. And it kind of is this like addicting thing of being like, no, I want to stay up a little bit more. I want to get a little more done, and just making myself hit have my bed hit that pillow head hit the pillow. I think it was definitely the choice that I needed, and I just feel so great, like full of energy, full of life, full of ability to handle stress, difficult situations, which is not the case every day.
yeah. Yeah, and it's hard in this world right now, and
Yeah,
it's one way we can show kindness to ourselves. And for people who are just tuning in, one thing that Nathan and I keep talking about is so much happens in sleep than not being awake.
yeah.
You cannot look at sleep as a binary faction of being awake, sleep. That's
Hmm.
it.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and sometimes like when I'm awake, I almost feel like it's not even fully being awake because I feel like so groggy and tired that I'm just like, you know, uh, nodding in and out and not being able to be present.
I've had those days, and I've had like strings of those days,
Hmm.
you know? And I think I hit a point in my life which is like, never again. Never. I choose not to do that. And if they happen, I figure out how to manage it. But oh man.
Yeah, brilliant. I've been talking so much, so long, and I've really enjoyed this. I know this was not one of those more like research data sharing kind of days, but I like having our little individual share moments just to connect with each other and the community of knowing that the journey is a little different for everybody else, and sharing the individual journeys I think helps the collective consciousness grow and know that no one's alone. We're all here for you. And yeah, and even those ideal habits aren't happening for me every day, and that's totally okay. Um, Last thing I wanted to share before we wind down, we talked about theta, and this just reminded me of one of those quotes from one of my favorite movies growing up. I would watch Hook a lot, and at the end, Julia Roberts as Tinkerbell says to Peter Pan as he's leaving, "You know that moment between sleep and awake where you can still remember your dreams? That's where I'll always love you." Um,
Yeah.
and and so you just sharing about that like theta in between state, I just kind of made the hairs on my arm stand up. Of like, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
magic, that's the tingliness of it. And I didn't want this episode to finish without me sharing that moment because I always get little sparkly tingles when I hear that.
I just got chicken skin from that too. I love that. And that Tinkerbell part of ourselves is always there. And how do we honor it?
Hmm.
Acorn, if you want to get into James Hillman. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Alrighty, this was such a treat, such delight. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you showing up, even if we might not have a full idea fully planted and curated for the week. Thanks for being here with me. Thank you, all of you, for joining in, tuning in, sticking around. As always, if you have any questions, slide into our DMs, comment below, and we'll see you very soon. Hey, Brooke, I'll give you the final word.
Well, I just want to give you the ASL thank you. So here you can see my arm like this.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Nathan.
thank
This was
you.
really special and fun.
Yeah, always a treat. Thank you all. I'll see you soon. Take care.
Wow.